debate, and the one that the council is known for, is the controversy over the views of the Alexandrian-based priest called Arius and his umbrella of followers. Arius was in dispute with the other influential Alexandrian clergymen, such as the famous theologian Athanasius of Alexandria and his followers, over the nature of Christ and his relation to the Father, for which he had been excommunicated from Alexandria and forced to flee to Palestine. Despite his exile, Arius's teachings accumulated a significant following among certain elements of the early Christian community, becoming known as Arianism. Arianism was a school of thought that considered God the Father to pre-exist God the Son, known also as Jesus. Arius's opponents decried these teachings, claiming that if true, it would mean that Christ the Son was a limited being. The Council of Nicaea, which was attended by multiple bishops, including both Athanasius and Arius, debated this under imperial auspices. By hosting this conclave, Emperor Constantine was attempting to ensure that Christianity, an up-and-coming religion that emperors could rely on for imperial cohesion and royal legitimation, was relatively united. In the ensuing arguments, the followers of Arianism asserted that Christ, or God the Son, should be referred to as homoousios, meaning someone who had a similar substance to God the Father. This, they felt, was the only way to show the proper distinction between Father and Son, two entities they asserted required theological separation. On the other side, the anti-Arians declared that Christ shouldn't be called homoousios, one who has the same substance as the Father, which they claimed showed that both persons were co-eternal, as opposed to that of the Arians, which they claimed made the Son a creation of the Father. Constantine was not a theologian and did not take a side, instead trying to steer everyone to a consensus. Unfortunately, the Arians and anti-Arians were so polarized against one another that the emperor's attempts to mediate between them were futile. Despite initial moderation amongst many bishops, the Arian and anti-Arian camps poured oil on the flames and increased the chasm. As the debates at Nicaea continued, Athanasius gradually gained the upper hand over Arius, slowly getting his fellow bishops over to his side and managing to form a creed based around him, the early Nicene Creed.
Now that Notice affirms that the Son and Father are the same, no one is ignorant. For he makes his statement, thus when indeed then the Father had not been born, he yet was justly styled Father. And when it pleased him to undergo generation, having been begotten, he himself became his own Son, not another's. For in this manner he thinks to establish the sovereignty of God, alleging that Father and Son so called, are while one and the same substance. Not one individual produced from a different one, but himself from himself, and that he is styled by name Father and Son, according to vicissitude at times, but that he is one who has appeared among us, both having submitted to generation from a virgin, and as a man having held converse among men.
And on account of the birth that had taken place, he confessed himself to those beholding him a son. No doubt yet he made no secret to those who could comprehend him of his being a father. That this person suffered by being fastened to the tree, and that he commended his spirit unto himself, having died and not being dead. And he raised himself up the third day after having been interred in a sepulchre, and wounded with a spear, and perforated with nails. Thus Clearmings asserts, in common with his hand of followers, that this person is God and Father of the universe. Refutation of All Heresies, Book 9 by Hippolytus.
But you almost never hear anybody say, I love the Trinity. Because as soon as you say, I love something, it's sort of expected that you might feel comfortable explaining why and what that means. And even a lot of our seminary grads would struggle in sermons and in preaching and teaching to differentiate, for example, between the Father and the Son in a meaningful fashion. What's the relationship between the Father and the Son? Why did Jesus say, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father? And the fact there's so much modalism in the church, I think a large portion, at least I'll speak for American Christians, I think if I were to give a test on a Sunday morning in almost any large conservative Bible-believing church. I am quite concerned that over a majority of the attendees would test out as modalists. And if you specifically press the idea of, well, Jesus said, I and the Father are one, would that mean that it's appropriate to refer to Jesus as the Father? I'm scared about how many people would go, oh, okay, yeah, right, no problem.
The denial of the existence of three divine persons was an issue primarily in the East in the middle of the 2nd century. Why is that important? Well, it seems there's things, but it seems fairly clear that one of the terms that had come up in the debates in the East and had been rejected by the church was homoousios. Was homoousios. Modalists who were using it.
Wow.
So the Eastern Church said, no, that sounds like modalism. We reject that. We believe that the Son has eternally existed as the Son. And so when Nicaea uses this is why Eusebius has to write this big long letter back to his church, because he knows if he goes back having signed the Nicene Creed that uses homoousios, saying that the substance as the Father, that they're going to lynch him, saying that the substance as the Father, that they're going to lynch him. I mean, they're going to beat him up because they've already rejected that terminology.
Monarchy ad Tenemus.
Monarchy am Tenemus.
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 Monarchy ad Tenemus.
Monarchy am Tenemus.